At the 2012 Olympic Games, the Fierce Five made history by bringing home only the second team all-around gold for the United States. A year later, Kyla will be the only one of the five to compete for the all-around gold at the World Championships. Joining her is newcomer Simone Biles, who back in August. Both are medal contenders, but they'll be facing an uphill battle against the likes of 2010 world champion Alia Mustafina from Russia and China's Jinnan, bronze medalist at the 2011 World Championships. A fierce battle is about to begin in Belgium as the women's all-around final gets underway at the 2013 World Artistic Gymnastics Championships, live right now on Universal Sports. It is the 44th World Championships in the Olympic city of Antwerp, Belgium, host of the 1920 Summer Games, and now the Gymnastics World Championships arrive almost a century later. Today, the Women's All-Around Championship. And with that, we welcome you to our live coverage here on Universal Sports. Steve Schlanger along with the Olympic gold medalists, Amanda Borden and Bart Connor. And Bart, I will start with you. The Americans are the favorites for the gold medal. And what might surprise some people is that the outright favorite is not a member of the Fierce Five from a year ago.
That's right. In fact, the top qualifier from the first day of competition, Simone Biles, is just a 16-year-old from Texas. She was a junior gymnast in the U.S. a year ago, and yet here she finds herself as the favorite to win the all-around gold medal today. She qualified almost a point ahead of second-place Kyla, and you can see she just has a smile that lights up the room, and her powerful, explosive gymnastics is just thrilling to watch. To give you an idea of how strong the U.S. program is right now, if you go back 10 years to the 2004 Olympics, if you count 3 Olympics and 7 World Championships, if an American like Simone Biles could win today, the U.S. women will have won 8 of 10 of the last major World All-Around Championships. That's how deep the U.S. program is currently.
Well, for Simone, this is her first World Championships at the senior level, so you wonder, are nerves going to play a role? How tight might she be coming into the all-around? Well, that's something we talked to her about earlier this week, right after the qualification round.
It was a little rough in the beginning because I had to wait, but it wasn't too bad. And like competing, I wasn't even nervous because I think Marta makes me more nervous than the judges sometimes. So, but it's a lot of help to have her.
Well, thanks to Marta Caroli, the national team coordinator. She seemed very confident in day one, but we have also seen Simone's nerves get the best of her. In fact, at the Classic this year, she had a complete meltdown, and she wasn't even able to finish the competition. So today is going to be about staying calm and handling the pressure of this opportunity. Well,
the Fierce Five not totally forgotten in Antwerp. In fact, the only member competing is probably Simone's biggest competition in Kyla.
That's right. Like Bart mentioned, she is in second place, but it is a close competition. She comes in with a new sense of confidence, and while she doesn't have the most difficult routines that we're going to see, she has some of the best execution in the entire world. But it's going to be a battle at the top amongst the Americans, as well as Jinnan from China and Mustafina from Russia.
Well, Ross does have more experience than Simone Biles, and compared to Simone, who's just 16 years of age, Kyla, an ancient 17-year-old now competing at the World Championships. So we will see them square off with the best in the world. Rotation number 1 of 4 coming up when we come back on Universal Sports. This is Laura Waem of Belgium, the host country, ready to kick things off in Antwerp on the floor exercise, while the top qualifiers will begin their first rotation on the vault.
Typical of these all-around competitions, all 4 events are competing simultaneously. Of course, we are in Belgium, so the host broadcaster has elected to start the competition off with a hometown favorite, the 16-year-old. Qualified 22nd out of 24 gymnasts into today's all-around final.
Well, this can be a tough thing to be first up in the competition, handling the adrenaline.
She was 3rd in the all-around in the Belgian Championship this year.
One thing the judge is looking for with the new code is a little bit more artistry. They're focusing in more on the dance elements and landing of those passes. They want to see the athletes fighting for sticking the landing. Every athlete coming in to make small improvements. Held on there in that last tumbling pass.
And she gets the crowd into it right away with the first routine of the evening on the floor. And this is Kyla Ross over on the vault. 17-year-old. She is the second of this first rotation on vault after Jinnan.
Yurchenko double full, probably one of the best I've ever seen her do. Incredible height. We talked about that execution. Perfect body alignment. Chest was up on the landing. I'm not sure it could get any better for Kyla right now.
Well, she really did lift off that vaulting table spectacularly. Keep in mind, we mentioned that Simone Biles does the most difficulty in the competition. Simone Biles will do a vault that's worth 0.5 of a point more in terms of difficulty, and she does it exceptionally well. But in terms of clean execution and technique, it's hard to beat this, isn't it?
Right there down that center line. You mentioned 0.5 less on the start value, but execution, half of the score as well. Remember, execution starts from that 10.0. Judges take deductions from there. The start value on that double full is at 5.8. They'll add those scores together, and it should be a good total.
And it is 15.366 after Jinnan started things with a 14.8, so considerably better for the American. And next up, Simone Biles, following her teammate.
That's 0.2 of a point better than Kyla did in the qualifying round, so that bodes well for her all-around chances today.
This is Waem, the Belgian, from her floor exercise, 12.366. And now Simone Biles, who was second on the vault at the recent U.S. Nationals, where she was the all-around gold medalist.
This could be a highlight of today's competition right here. The hardest vault in the world, and boy, she does it spectacularly. Oh, my!
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. So she added that extra half twist, which is what makes it so much more difficult. Of course, she had that step on the landing. Step, obviously, up to the judge's perspective, can be 1/3 or 5/10, but she already, before she's even started, has 5/10 advantage. Look at the form in the air, spots the ground. I mean, really, the only deduction was the step.
You mentioned this is one of the more difficult vaults. It's 2.5 twister. It's called an Amanar. It was first performed internationally by Simone Amanar from Romania. There's still only a handful of gymnasts who can compete it competently around the world. And Simone, I've understood that she can actually do a triple twister that she may unveil someday. So this is just a glimpse of the amount of power and explosive technique that she has. Wow.
Best score so far, 15.850. So rewarded for her difficulty. A terrific opening performance. And now the diminutive 17-year-old from China, Chunsong. This is not her strongest apparatus.
Good point. In fact, her 5.0 is the degree of difficulty of this vault that she should go for. At least she did in the qualifying round. Let's see what she does today. Yeah, 5.0.
Completely different build, obviously, compared to Simone. Simone, very powerful. So the reason this event is a little bit harder is she just doesn't have the strength behind her. You can see on the run already. Yurchenko layout full. Small hop there on the landing. Be a low start value, but not a lot of deduction. She'll get some deduction for the lack of height off the table.
Where she shines, of course, is on bars and beam, where you typically see the Chinese excel. She has a 6.3 degree of difficulty on bars, much more so than here. You know, if you're not a powerful tumbler or vaulter these days, it's very hard to be a complete all-around gymnast. And if you think about it, in women's gymnastics, 3 of the 4 events are leg events. So if you're a powerful tumbler, you can automatically do floor, vault, and beam reasonably well. So that's an advantage for somebody like Simone Biles, who is so powerful. She's already spectacular on 3 of the 4 events.
And her score, 14 even. Taking us to Alia Mustafina, the 2010 world champion and the Olympic bronze medalist. Last time at the World Championships in her 2010 winning year, she took silver on the vault.
She did fall on this event in day one. In fact, she had a rough competition in the qualification, so the good news for her, she's very competitive. I would expect to see her on a mission today.
She did win the European Championships this year.
She really popped up quick on that landing. I think she knew it wasn't completely the best landing she could have done. Almost looked like she didn't quite complete the twist. Same vault we saw from Kyla Ross. Yurchenko double full. Landing right there, you could see on the white line and try to bump right out of it. Maybe the judges won't catch it.
You can see a little sloppy form in the last part of this double twister. Keep in mind, it was a couple of years ago where she blew out her ACL doing a 2.5 twister. So she has never quite regained that same level of explosiveness on vault since that injury, and there's been a lot of turmoil in the Russian program this year. Several of the top gymnasts from Russia are not here due to injuries and illness. In fact, even her Olympic teammate Komova is not here because she's in the hospital with meningitis. So there's been a lot of unfortunate circumstances surrounding the Russian team here.
At 14.891 for Mustafina. And now Larisa Iordache, the 17-year-old Romanian from Bucharest, our final competitor in this rotation on the vault.
She has also been hampered a little bit by injuries, a nagging back injury and a problem with her heel. So not unlike the program in Russia, the Romanians have also had a little bit of a challenge in this post-Olympic year, fielding a really strong and deep team.
Nice clean double full. Remember, the judges are seeing the same vaults over and over. What are they looking for to separate them? Obviously, that form in the air, the height off the table, and most importantly, the landing. That it leaves the last impression.
Iordache was second in the all-around at the European Championships in Moscow this year, second on the vault as well.
And a solid start for her. Day one, she scored a 14.933 on this event.
We'll get a chance to see her on the balance beam later, where she was the top qualifier and has one of the more difficult routines in the competition. So typically the Romanians hope to get by vault and floor, vault and bars, and then where they really shine is typically beam and floor.
We talk about it so often that a lot of athletes have their individual strengths and weaknesses, but the goal is to be consistent across the board.
And a 15 for the Romanian, who was top 10 in the all-around at the Olympics a year ago in London. As we swing over to the bars, and Vanessa Ferrari, the Italian, set to go.
Ferrari was a former world champion back in 2006. It's pretty rare when you think the window for an elite female gymnast is only a couple of years. The fact that she is still competing and contending for world medals after all these years is pretty remarkable.
We really see it more on the men's side, don't we?
You do. It is a tough thing to stay at the top year after year. She was at the 2012 Olympics where she finished 8th in the all-around, but there is experience throughout this whole competition, and these athletes know what it takes, and that's what it takes right there, a stuck landing.
How much does that first routine set the tone for the remainder of your night, even though it may be a strength or a weakness?
Well, the first routine, I know for me as an athlete, was always the hardest because you have so much adrenaline through the march out, you know, getting warmed up and waiting for almost the entire rotation. It can be very difficult. So to come out and be confident and nail these routines really sets the tone. For a lot of these athletes, they know how to handle the pressure. But at World Championships, and if you're a contender, a completely different ballgame.
Certainly the most successful Italian female gymnast with 4 world medals and 8 European medals to her credit.
13.7 as we now move over to the beam. And this is Rebecca Tunney of Great Britain coming up next.
Now, this event is by far the toughest to start on. No doubt about it. This is the one event where adrenaline does not help you at all. In fact, the best thing you can do is stay calm, stay in your mental game. You can see every athlete has their own routine. Some athletes stay away from the event. You see them fidgeting, staying moving. A lot of athletes will have a mental routine. You'll see them coaching themselves through. And this event is by far the hardest to wait for the judges.
All right, our current standings, no surprise, Biles and Ross, the 2 Americans up top. as we come to the end of our first rotation here with both Biles and Ross completing very good vaults to
It's
get their
interesting
evenings
that
going.
they're separated by ½ a point, which is exactly the difference in the difficulty value. Once again, evidence that if you come here with a high degree of difficulty and can hit your routines, you're almost untouchable.
Well, a tough apparatus to start on and then a weight to go with it. Not exactly the ideal beginning, is it?
Absolutely not. I know for me, I liked being first up on this event because I didn't want to have to wait, but she's already waited a couple competitors and she finally has gotten the go from the judges.
We mentioned the difficulty back, of course, when you were competing and the 10-0 was the benchmark, Amanda. The sport is so different now with this open-ended scoring. The judges judge degree of difficulty, and there's essentially a start value from each routine based on the skills that you perform, and then another panel of judges take execution deductions, and those two scores are combined. That's why the numbers of, 15.1 come up. There's no longer the perfect 10 as a benchmark, but it really does give a great deal of advantage to a young gymnast who has high degree of difficulty because assuming all else things are reasonably consistent, if you come in with the most difficulty and can hit it, you have a distinct advantage over a gymnast who might be really clean and really lovely and nice technique, but just doesn't have the high degree of D score, right?
It's very tough. You can see all these little bobbles obviously coming off the execution score, the 1 point for a fall. But elements like that, the judges are looking for the connection. That is what gets them the difficulty score. And on this event, it is very tricky because they are very precise on what a connection is. It has to have the proper speed, proper arm positioning, and the hardest part about this event is staying on. Dismounting with a double pike. Besides that fall, overall, it was a good routine.
Now, good crowd for the second night of the finals. The men's all-around was on night 1. This is night number 2 in Antwerp. The women's all-around, and a look again at Tunney's dismount.
Well, look at the view here.
This was her fall, actually.
Her fall, yes, that is a perfect view. Remember, it's only 4 inches wide. It doesn't take much to miss it. But she finished strong right here at the difficult double pike. Little step there.
Still 2 more competitors to go on the beam. Natsumi Sasada of Japan will be next as Rebecca Tunney waits for her score following the fall.
We talked about how important the first event is and how that sets the tone. This can be a really difficult position to make that kind of mistake on your first event. And they still have 3 more events to go. But as we all know, balance beam is kind of that evening factor. Every athlete has to go to it. Every athlete has a chance of falling off of it. So it's not over till it's over. So she needs to really regroup and focus in on her next 3 events.
She was the youngest member of the British Olympic team in London. She was nicknamed Twiggy because she was the tiniest member of the team as well.
Not a bad nickname for a gymnast, though. Seems to fit.
The whole key in gymnastics is your strength to weight ratio.
Right.
So if you're light and extremely strong, you certainly have an advantage.
All right. Let's go back over to the floor now. Asuki Teramoto of Japan.
Going on simultaneously. You notice in the background the other gymnast from Japan competing in today's finals happens to be on the beam at the same time. Tough for the Japanese coaches to pay attention to what's going on.
A lot of nice dance elements throughout this routine. Beautiful turn. I know it sounds crazy. You watch these tumbling passes and you think that's got to be the hardest part, but quite often it can be those turns.
To important to note that the judges are looking for 8 elements of difficulty. 5 of the elements come from tumbling and acrobatic type skills, and 3 of the elements must come from dance and dance combinations. So the judges in this new code of points are really encouraging high level of difficulty in the dance elements, right, Amanda?
Yes, and that can be tough. Difficult leaps. Of course, even more importantly, these tumbling passes at the very end, it makes it hard on the endurance, but no problem there.
One of the things I like about the new rules is that you can't just tumble your way or trick your way to a championship. You have to be a more balanced and complete gymnast, and I think the judges are trying to make that loud and clear by saying, I don't care how much tumbling you can do, you still need to do quality dance.
Rebecca Tunney with a score of just under 12 on her balance beam routine a short while ago after a fall during the middle. So she'll move on, and so will we. Over to the uneven bars for the final competitor of our first rotation. This is the Spaniard Roxana Popa.
Finale des 24 meilleurs, Roxana Popa Nedelcu.
Popa, Roxana Popa, is a very Romanian name. You might know that she was born actually in Constanța, Romania. Her family moved for work in Spain, and then she emigrated there 2 years later, and now she represents Spain.
Big release moves in this routine and lots of nice combinations. She scored a 13.9, day 1 competition. A little short on some of these handstands as she wraps up for the dismount. Full twisting double layout. Step on the landing, she looks a little relieved.
She was nearly forced into retirement with an elbow injury. She had surgery and a long recovery, so she's finally healthy. Good to see her here.
An elbow is such a tough injury for a gymnast, isn't it, to deal with and try to come back from?
Well, and especially on this event, quite often when you have that elbow injury, you can't train. And there's nothing like bars. You know, Bart mentioned 3 of our events are leg events, so she was probably able to keep up a lot of skills there. But she had this routine packed with major releases and some big combinations. Some few execution deductions on her handstands and her lines throughout, but overall, very strong start.
Team in Spain is another team going through big transitions. The former head coach for many years was Jesus Carballo. He's no longer the head coach of the team from Spain. He was replaced. There were some accusations that his coaching borderline abusive. And so gymnasts had filed some complaints. Well, all those complaints were actually dismissed, but in the meantime, they've had a complete renovation of their coaching program in Spain. Wow.
Now, this was just a short while ago. Natsumi Sasada of Japan. We saw her in the background during her teammates' floor routine. So now we get a full look at the entire program.
And I'm so glad we're seeing this in replay. Round off, layout, full mount onto the beam. Incredible.
Very difficult. Few balance checks since the most difficult part of the routine. It's a risky mount. Quite often you can see them get on and off before they've even started. Another factor on the balance beam, also part of the artistry the judges are looking for. They're required dance elements down on the beam, as well as dance elements that move sideways on the beam. A lot of big tricks throughout this routine. She just has these small balance checks on almost every skill she's done so far. Day 1, she had a difficulty score of a 5.9. And a strong dismount.
So 13.5 was her score, and before Rebecca Tunney, it was Carlotta Ferlito of Italy. So we'll take a look back at her routine.
She had a strong performance day 1, ranked her 7th on this event. Beautiful combination work there. check there, but it's a triple series. That actually, anytime they perform 3 elements in a row, they do get bonus.
She did qualify for the finals on this event, so we'll see her in the apparatus finals here. She's an enormously popular celebrity in Italy because there's a MTV reality show called Parallel Lives, all about the lives of these young women who live at their national training center, and she is a hero. In fact, last year she was given the Sports Hero of the Year in Italy over people like Lionel Messi and even Kobe Bryant because people appreciated her for her television series. How about that?
And she was not voted off, believe it or not. She made it all the way through. The tribe did not speak against her.
Dismounting with the round off 2.5. Solid landing.
All right, her total of 14-1. With 1 rotation in the books at the women's all-around in Antwerp, the 2 Americans are sitting at the top. Simone Biles and Kyla Ross, the way we anticipated. Rotation number 2 is coming up as our live coverage continues here on Universal Sports. The 44th World Championships. This is the women's all-around final in Antwerp, Belgium. Steve Schlanger, Amanda Borden, and Bart Connor. And now on the vault for our 2nd of 4 rotations. It will begin with one of the women from the host country, Belgian, Gaelle.
She has a very simple vault. Yurchenko layout full, so there again, not a big start value. It'll start from a 5.0. So her goal then is to be as clean as possible.
She's a 2-time Olympian. 2012, she replaced her injured teammate, Julie Crockett, who wasn't able to compete because she had a torn ACL. So a great opportunity for Gaelle. Her face is on posters all over Antwerp because she has been the local face of the games to the community here.
Is there more pressure with a lower start value or a higher start value, depending on how you look at it?
I don't know that there is pressure. When it comes to vault, you're going to see every athlete do the hardest vault they can do safely. So when they're performing Yurchenko layout full, it's because the 1.5 or double full isn't quite ready. These are big landings, and to be honest with you, those are smart choices by the athlete and the coach to make sure that they are prepared for this event. If she could do a harder vault, she would definitely do it because it makes a big difference in the all-around score when you can start off with a whole extra point on the top of your score. You can see a little pike down there.
Yeah, good example. She's giving up 1.3 to somebody like Simone Biles, which means Simone has enough difficulty. She could afford to fall and still beat Gaelle here. So,
and knowing you have to nail it, though, does that add that pressure? You can't have any kind of margin for error.
Oh, I think as Amanda said, you know, you do what you can do.
Right.
And she knows that this is where she is right now, and this is what she's comfortable going for. So it's not smart to take a risk on something that could be, let's say, dangerous at the very minimum, besides, you know, cause you a chance to fall or have a low score.
This is the Hungarian, Noemi Makra, following Ness on the vaults. Meantime, our Americans and the top qualifiers are over right now on the uneven bars.
I think one thing to think about
momentarily, excuse me,
with vault is we just saw some of the best vaulters in the world in the first rotation.
Good point.
So to compare what we saw in rotation 1 to this rotation, because we're going to see another vault pike front half, something we saw a lot in the 90s. There again, the start value only a 5.0.
Gymnastics fans might appreciate this. She was coached by Mihai and Giulia Bunyatinsky, who were the former coaches of Henrietta Onodi, who was a great Olympic medalist back in the 90s, and someone you competed a lot with, Amanda.
Well, here is the American Kyla Ross on the uneven bars. Certainly one of her strengths for the evening.
She had a very difficult 6.4 start value in the qualifying round in a clean exercise, qualified second.
Well, she is beautiful on this event because of her extension, her form. The judges specifically looking for handstands like that. Right on top of the bar.
This is where she was so important to the Fierce Five at the Olympics last year. She contributed on bars and beam. That clean execution and form is just as good as it gets. Wow.
Oh, perfect landing there. Looked like she almost had a little slip up in the middle, but she had a great save. You know, Kyla is very confident. She handles the pressure well. And most importantly, even though it might not be her perfect routine, she always sticks with it.
See her congratulations from her coach, Jenny Shang, in Aliso Viejo, California. Jenny Shang and Howie Liang have coached her for several years, and they've just developed a terrific bond.
You can see how important the hand placement is on these release moves. Where she stands out is her body alignment on those handstands. And of course, the lasting impression right here on her dismount. Double layout, spots the ground.
You know what's so impressive to me is typically the post-Olympic year, especially if you're an Olympic gold medalist, you know, they have opportunities to, you know, speaking engagements and parades and tours, and there's even some financial rewards. And it's very difficult for a gymnast to come back the year after the Olympics and be so competitive. That's why I'm so impressed with Kyla, because she's the real deal here. She's not just sort of milking a post-Olympic year.
And it also underscores the depth of the U.S. women to have some that take time off and do other things, and yet you still come back to the World Championships with two of the favorites. As we wait for her score on the uneven bars, and it's a good one, 15-1 for Kyla Ross. And her teammate, the only woman leading her after the first rotation in the standings, Simone Biles, coming up now.
She had the highest execution score on day one, which is outstanding for Simone. That's not something she's known for. She is known for the big skills, lots of power, but sometimes struggles with the form.
Talk about difficulty. She gives up typically about 4/10 of degree of difficulty to Kyla on this event, so she'll need to be clean. She did submit a new move here. There were 13 new moves, and that's it right here. A Weiler kip pirouette. 13 new moves were submitted to the International Federation to get value, and if you're the first one to successfully compete a new move, and we'll see one of them on the floor that she does later, the move can be named after you in the future code of points.
Some great saves here. She was a little bit off on those pirouettes and that release down to the low bar, but held on strong. And a strong dismount.
She was second on the bars at the U.S. Championships, where she won the overall in Hartford a little over a month ago.
Excuse me, Steve, but the move that she submitted was the Weiler kip with a full turn. She only did a half turn here.
And how fun to be out there with your U.S. teammate like that. Big Pike Tkachev there. Right there, she came in a little short. Typically, an athlete might drag their feet, but no problem. It shows how strong she is.
Yeah, power is just something you can't teach. And I know, Amanda, you have a gym in Arizona, and when a young lady walks in the door who has this amount of natural ability, you're like, oh, wow, what can we do with her?
What's so neat, though, is she brings her power to bars. You know, she's not just a great floor and vaulter. She brings that power to bars with those big release moves, and outstanding job.
Now, over on the beam, this is the Dutch woman, Noel van Klaveren, the 18-year-old. She was 8th in this event at a World Challenge Cup event not too long ago.
Difficult combination there. Side aerial to the layout step out. What makes that so hard is that side aerial has a turn in it. Anytime you're turning in the air, there is room for error. She did have that balance check that held on.
Did extremely well at the European Championships in Moscow this year. Took 16th in the all-around.
Another tumbling pass here. Going for that bonus with the triple series.
In that same meet, she got second on the vault, tied with Iordache, which she said for her was that silver medal was as good as gold, to know that she was competing with some of the best, and made a podium finish, which is not common for a gymnast from the Netherlands, when most of the medals are won by that elite group of 4 programs. It's U.S., Romania, Russia, and China typically winning the bulk of the major international medals.
She has packed this routine with so many elements. That front aerial, one of the easiest, looking like she was supposed to have a combination there. Misjudged the landing, and unfortunately that is how fast it happens. You're on it, you're off it. Wow, lots of difficulty. I'm sure disappointed. Every athlete comes into this competition and their goal is to put up their best 4 events. Every athlete wants the best athlete to win the competition, but it's disappointing when you have those falls.
All right, Simone Biles on the uneven bars, 14-7. Again, leading after the first rotation. Now she's halfway through her night in Antwerp. And that is Vanessa Ferrari, the Italian, who just completed her beam routine not too long ago. All right, current standings. The 2 Americans still setting the pace, with the 2 Italians rounding out the top 4.
Very close, too, separated by less than 1/10 of a point.
And now we are back on the uneven bars for the Russian, Alia Mustafina.
Of course, she led the Russian team to the silver medal in the team competition, but she won a total of 4 medals at the Olympics last year. 3rd in the all-around, the gold medal on this event, and the bronze medal on the floor exercise. Been a lot of turmoil in the Russian program, as I mentioned, and as spectacular as this young lady is, and she's actually kind of well known as being, let's say, a little bit difficult in the gym. We haven't seen a lot of smiles from this young lady here, and yet hopefully we're in for a highlight here, because her bars are just a work of mastery.
Now she's the reigning European champion in the uneven bars, and away she goes.
She's got the difficulty, but what makes her stand out is her form. Watch this right here. Very difficult. Full twisting release up to the high bar, but connects directly back. It doesn't end there. Back up to the high bar.
There's a smooth rhythm, even though she's doing a very difficult routine. Somehow it's elegant, isn't it?
Beautiful. Nice swing. And another cover there on the landing. Difficult 1.5. It's a blind landing, so just spot the ground as she's landing forward. She stepped right out to her salute. She knows how important every 10th is, and she's almost trying to hide the fact that she's not perfect on these landings today.
And she brings it in the finals. That move, the bar dismount, is named after her now, that double back with a 1.5 twist.
Lots of height above the bar on that Jaeger. You talk about the rhythm of her routine. She has very nice swing. It's very difficult to teach an athlete, but it is very noticeable. Right here, this dismount, you can see step forward, right to the salute. Of course, the judges will still count that as a deduction.
The Olympic gold medalist in the uneven bars. And now we'll wait for her score while we move on over to the vault. And this was earlier. Elisabeth Seitz of Germany.
Your Keiko double full. She had a lot of distance there. Little form break on the landing. And a 14.833 was her score.
Score. Can she edge closer to a podium position? Still early.
Her long-term coach, Alexander Alexandrov, has recently left Russia and took the head coaching position down in Brazil. The Brazilians really trying to beef up their program in advance of the 2016 Olympics. So during all this turbulence in the Russian Federation, Alexandra took off and went to Brazil.
So it was a 15.233 for Mustafina, and Iordache now on the bars.
An important routine right here. She was in third after that first event. Big combination there. See a little bit of form deductions throughout this routine. Those legs just not quite as tight as we saw from Mustafina.
You know, the Romanians have been sort of routinely criticized for not being great on bars, but she actually swings quite well. There's a lot of aggressive technique, powerful swing movements.
Sixth recently in a World Challenge Cup event over in Doha.
Nice combination right here.
From Great Britain, ladies and gentlemen.
When you see it in slow motion, the difference between some of the greats is just that extension through her legs. She's got all the skills. Nailed this dismount right here. Chest completely up on the landing. And she has to feel very pleased. Off to a great start. What's really great, she's going to be heading to one of her best events, the balance beam. And that's next.
So the 17-year-old from Bucharest waits for her marks. Meantime, Noel van Klaveren of the Netherlands on the beam a few moments ago. And her score, 12.733. Iordache now set to get her score from the uneven bars routine.
We were talking before this show about the differences in the program. Romania is still a sort of a state-supported government program for all their youth sports, very different than the program here in the United States, where literally there's 2,000 successful gymnastics clubs in the United States. And in Romania, there's a handful of clubs and maybe only 300 gymnasts in the whole country. And yet in the United States, there might be 5 million youngsters trying gymnastics. So they have a very small talent pool from which to draw from. And so the fact that they are always near the top is pretty remarkable, considering they don't have a very deep feeder system feeding new talent into the programs.
All right, so now this is Yao Jinnan of China, the 18-year-old, and the final competitor on the uneven bars here in rotation number 2.
This could be a highlight. The most difficult routine in the competition, a 6.7 degree of difficulty if she can do it all.
Watch this.
Oh, she did it! That move is called a Mo. It was invented by a former Chinese champion, Mo Huilan, many years ago. We weren't sure we were going to see it here because she didn't do it in the qualifying round.
Wow. I'm not sure what was going on. It looked like she was going to do another release move. He looked like he was stepping in.
The coach was stepping in, perhaps for a reverse hex. Wow.
Well, she did a tremendous amount of pirouetting there. It was so quick and fast, you almost couldn't see how fast it was. But watch this release move. Very difficult, up and over the bar. I mean, incredible strength to be able to catch and hang on.
This move was invented by Mitch Gaylord, first to do it back in the early 80s. It's very rare in women's competition because it's so difficult with the uneven bars.
And a beautiful double layout, and that smile right there. She is very proud of that routine.
She's the only member of the Chinese Olympic team from last year who hasn't retired. To have her back and looking so good, great stuff.
She just missed a medal in the uneven bars at the Olympics last year as well, finishing 4th in London, as we're now back over on beam. And this is Vanessa Ferrari, the Italian, and this is from a little while ago.
She had a great balance beam performance in the day 1 competition. She scored a 14.216, which ranked her 6th on this event. So she has to be confident coming into this competition. Solid landing there.
That means she'll compete in the finals on this apparatus. She also made the floor finals as well, where she's very powerful.
dances effortlessly on the balance beam. That's hard to do. Remember, you're on a 4-inch beam, 4 feet off the ground. It's fun to watch a gymnast, though, move fluidly on this event and incorporate those big skills at the same time.
You know, she's only 22, but, you know, really, she's been around major international meets for 10 years. We first saw her as a junior European competitor, 2004. And so the fact that she is, with her coach there, Enrico Casella, still excelling at 22, and she's engaged to one of the gymnasts from the Italian team.
Great perspective there. Wow. You can't even fit both feet on the beam. It really gives you perspective at how precise they have to be every single time. You can see she's very confident on this event, which is what qualified her to the finals.
All right, well, as we wrap up this second rotation, we get the score for Yao Jinnan of China on the uneven bars, 15.333. And now our final competitor on the vault is Waem of Belgium.
Simple and clean, your Janko layout full.
And a score of 13-8. So worth the midway point in the women's all-around final in Antwerp. We'll have the scores as we come back here on Universal Sports. The standings after 2 of 4 rotations in Antwerp. Biles and Ross, the Americans, still on top, but it is tight in the race for the medals and a podium spot in Belgium tonight. Yao Jinnan of China currently holding that 3rd spot, but the Russian, the former world champion, breathing down her neck. Should be an exciting final 2 rotations to come. Our 3rd rotation begins in Antwerp with the Italian Carlotta Ferlito on the vault, while the top qualifiers and the leaders right now after 2 rotations are moving on to the balance beam for rotation number 3.
Day 1, she actually had an out of bounds on this event, so looking to improve that. See those white lines on the landing mat. They do touch it or step out. It is a deduction, just like floor.
21st in the all-around at the Olympics last year. 11th in the World Championships in 2011.
One and a half, right down that white line. So a definite improvement on the out of bounds deduction.
And now Simone Biles, the American and the outright leader. Midway through the competition, she is on the balance beam.
Wow, and this could be the most critical moment of this young lady's career to this point, because it's beam, and she's in the lead at the World Championships. And
By far,
beam.
Yeah, the biggest challenge that she has. Not only is this a tough event for everybody, but she is so powerful. Amazing turn there. She's so powerful that quite often it can be difficult to control on this event. You can see very confident, though, in these first 2 elements, which really sets the tone for the whole routine.
You know, all week long in Antwerp, she has looked confident in the podium training, in the qualification. She doesn't seem phased by the pressure. You did mention at the top of the show, she had a meltdown earlier this year at the U.S. Classic. We're not seeing any sign of that here, are we?
Absolutely not. She looks very confident. And this is an event that has challenged Simone in the past. Little balance check there. And of course, didn't quite get that combination. The judges looking for those combinations. That affects the difficulty score. Talked about how powerful this young lady is and where she stands out, where she gets those extra points in her difficulty are the big elements, especially like this, the dismount. Wow, full in. It seems very difficult, but quite often it's the connection options that are much harder.
Wow.
You do a full land, you land on your feet, you automatically get the bonus. And of course, that is very important in that difficulty score.
Okay, but you were much more confident.
Few gymnasts in the world can do that full twisting double back at the end of the balance beam. She did it in combination. She didn't hold back at all in this routine.
Huge height there, spots the ground.
Critical moment for her because floor exercise is like a walk in the park. So to get through balance beam with just a slight lead over her teammate, and the top four are separated by less than a half a point. So that was a clutch performance for the young 16-year-old from Spring, Texas.
And now Vanessa Ferrari, our first on the floor in rotation number 3 as the Italian commences.
Bart, you mentioned she qualified to the finals on this event. So this should be fun to watch. Huge tuck double-double. 2 flips, 2 twists. Not too many young ladies can do that tumbling pass.
Qualify 4th place, so she'll be in the floor finals as well. And she was devastated last year at the Olympics because she lost a medal due to a tiebreaker on floor. Very important. They're definitely watching those landings as well, looking for 2-foot sticks. He does have a new move named after her, a split leap full turn to a ring.
Well, that right there, very impressive.
There's no denying that powerful tumbling is an eye-opener for the judges, but once again, you have to have the complete balance of tumbling and quality dance to get a good score.
Now, Chunsong, the 17-year-old from China, again making her senior debut at the World Championships. Now on the beam, second in a World Challenge Cup event on the beam earlier this year.
Well, and this is by far her best event. You could see incredible height there. She had the 2nd highest score in the day 1 competition.
Well, as she climbs back aboard, Simone Biles, who was first up in this rotation on the balance beam, a score of 14.433 for our outright leader.
Very petite gymnast, but her skills have tremendous height.
Her coaches back in China have coached some legendary Chinese gymnasts. Lu Li, the 92 Olympic uneven bars champion. Zhang Yuyan, member of the 2008 Olympic team. Den Ling, 2008 and 2012 Olympic team. So they have created some spectacular, wow.
Wow. She had that one mistake on that huge tumbling element, but that is an absolutely amazing routine. Remember, she made the beam final, so she's getting some corrections to make sure that mistake doesn't happen again.
She'll have a chance to redeem herself
Vanessa Ferrari on the floor, a 14.466. We saw her routine just a moment ago. And Simone Biles, as we mentioned, on the beam, a score of 14.433. And now we're going to go to the Greek on the floor exercise. Actually, part of the reserve alternates,
Millousi.
not automatically qualifying for the finals. Vasiliki, Millousi.
Jump back there, came really close to the line. Not sure if she stepped out of bounds or not.
She's the oldest competitor in these all-around finals at 29 years of age.
It's over 10 years older than a lot of the major competitors she's now going up against.
Interesting career. She competed at the 2000 Olympics in Australia and 12 years later at the 2012 Olympic Games. More evidence that a country like Greece, they do not have a huge feeder system to bring new talent into the program. She's a well-respected gymnast, but can you imagine a U.S. gymnast? Normally their window of opportunity is about 1.5 years to 2 years. Here she is 13 years later, still representing Greece in a major international competition.
And now the Russian former world champion, Alia Mustafina, on the beam, which is her weakest event.
Oh, but it can be a great event for her. She's so elegant, but she's relying on the judges here, I have to say. She's going to do some difficulty in this routine, but a lot of her difficulty comes from connection bonuses. Watch this here.
Like that.
She made it. The judges will be looking to see if there's fluid motion between the elements in order to give her connection bonus, and she's relying on the judgment of the judges. Look at this combination here. 3 elements in a row, but they were not connected. Oh, good save. Wow.
We saw Simone do some very big elements. Those individual elements worth a lot of points. If you can hit them, you know you're getting those start value points. Here, this is very subjective because the arm placements have to be very detailed. A fluid motion. Her start value in day 1 was a 6.0, and she earned a 14.133.
She did qualify for the finals.
Dismounting, double tuck with a step.
Be interesting to see which of the connections the judges gave her, because that will reflect her difficulty score. There's a lot that goes into that because she has to decide how aggressively she's going to try to connect moves, and then the judges have to decide whether they're going to give it to her or not. So tons of subjectivity in determining her actual degree of difficulty, isn't there?
Very solid on that opening connection. You can see right here, that front aerial, those arms have to circle back right to the back handspring.
And that was adequately connected.
I would have given that connection for sure.
She was hoping to connect the third move in that sequence, the double turn, but she clearly stopped in between and missed that connection.
And dismounted with a simple double tuck compared to the full in we saw from Simone Biles. But most importantly, she stayed on the event. It was a very clean, elegant routine to watch. It's really going to be and affect her start value score, the difficulty element of the score.
She was 4th place in the all-around coming into this rotation. A little bit less than a half a point behind Simone Biles.
And certainly a medal contender. And there really are 4 athletes who've kind of separated themselves right now battling for the podium. So it's a battle between 4 athletes for 3 spots.
That's right. In fact, Biles, Ross, Yao, and Mustafina are all within .426. It's a pretty big drop, nearly a point to Iordache, who was in 5th coming into this rotation. So you're right. It really is going to come down to those top 4.
And the score for the Russian, 14.166.
So a small improvement.
And staying with this group on the balance beam, Larisa Iordache of Romania.
Well, this is the routine to watch. She had the highest score in day 1, 15.266. Where she got everybody is the difficulty element of 6.4. So watch this.
Wow.
Full twist. Anytime there's a turn in an aerial type element, very difficult to stay straight and precise, but comes right back.
Oh, no. Now that round-off layout, sometimes she even does a round-off layout with a full twist. I imagine she'll go for that in the finals. Interesting, she was playing it a little safer here in the all-around, and it just didn't work out.
Well, she knew coming into this event, this is where she can make up ground. This is where she can catch everybody. And it doesn't matter how great you are at any single event. You add that pressure in, or that's in the back of your mind, and it's very easy to doubt yourself on this event.
She has had a nagging back injury, and the Romanian coaches said the other day that she really hasn't been able to do the repetition and the preparation that they would like to see coming into a world championship event like this. So that might just be showing itself here.
Unfortunately, this event is all about repetition. Big combination here.
Wow.
Wow.
Round-off back handspring, triple twist at the end, but such a shame that normally reliable Iordache on the beam wasn't able to deliver that time.
And she didn't want to hear anything from her coach. She goes right over. You can see the disgust.
Well, as we all know, the balance beam, it is a threat to everybody. And it happens this quick. Her feet are on and just couldn't hold on to it.
But you know, you often talk about the Chinese basically owning bars for many, many years. The balance beam has been property of the Romanians. They take pride that this is the one event that they are most consistently winning world, European, and Olympic medals. So that is an unfortunate mistake for her.
And like the pommel horse, it can be an event that keeps you right in the mix if you can stay on it.
And this is a peek back at Anna Rodionova from Russia. This was her vault from earlier. 17-year-old Russian.
I think she has great potential. I saw her in the podium training, and she's a very elegant young gymnast, and I believe she can get a little more powerful and add some degree of difficulty. She could be a factor, but she's only competing here because several of the top Russians had injuries and illness, which kept them out of this competition.
And Jinnan of China will be up next on the beam, waiting for Iordache's score before she begins her routine. Iordache clearly not happy with the result. Has won 2 major international competitions on the beam this year, but this will not help her cause as she tries to crack that top 4 that's been so elusive. The top 4 really separating themselves so far in the first couple of rotations here tonight. Now we'll look at the standings with several big names still to come in our 3rd rotation here. So a very fluid situation, but the overall standings are right now. Simone Biles of the U.S. continues to lead, and still awaiting Kyla Ross, who's been running in 2nd place all evening long. She'll be the last up here in this rotation, following Jinnan on the balance beam.
Well, this is another packed routine. 6.4 difficulty score in day 1. However, her execution score was a 7.7, so I know she is capable on improving that.
And she fell on a standing backflip with a full twist in the prelims, which is a skill that you don't often see the Chinese gymnasts attempting.
And under 14 for Larisa Iordache.
I mentioned that you don't see the Chinese gymnasts normally attempting that skill, and it really is kind of typical when you look at programs. They have certain, let's say, templates for building routines. And you know, you look at the bars for the Chinese, they do a lot of pirouetting skills and certain level of difficulty in the releases. They're known for their elegance and presentation on beam.
And their flexibility and their leaps and jumps.
Let's see what happens here. Oh, and she fell again on the same move as in qualifying. Standing backflip with a full. Interesting to note that even with a fall, she was the 9th best gymnast in qualifying at these World Championships. That's how exquisite she is on this event.
Silver medalist on the beam at the last World Championships.
This certainly might change the game at the top because Mustafina has hit her beam routine. Yao, who was just ahead of her by about 1/10 of a point, now suffers a disastrous fall, which of course is a 1-point fall deduction plus technical errors as well.
That's where it's hard to make that judgment. Obviously, she has tremendous difficulty, so that difficulty score can still keep her in the mix. It's really up to the judges. Wow, amazing routine for sure. Yes, that one slip up. But like we say, that opens the door.
Simone Biles, still the leader. As we look back at the fall early in the routine.
She's just a little underpowered on that. You know, she's shorter rotation. And I think if you're shorter rotation, there's really not much you can do in terms of saving. Is that right, Amanda?
But you can see she came into the landing still with the twist, and her feet were completely off the right side. And again, right there, right foot totally off. Great save on this one, though, because it didn't have the twist. She was coming into that landing straight, much easier to save.
And now our last competitor on the floor in this third rotation is Giulia Steingruber of Switzerland.
Another athlete that made the finals on this event with a score of a 14.033, and she had an out-of-bounds deduction of a 10th. This young lady having one of the best seasons of her career. In fact, a lot of people are waiting to see if she can put it together when it counts here at this World Championship.
She was 14th in the all-around at the Olympics last year, and she won the vault at the European Championships in Moscow this past spring. Does a full twisting double layout and another double layout in the routine. Let's see if she goes for it. Nice. Wow.
Double layouts are not an easy pass. She makes it look so effortless. But to do 2 flips with that laid out position, of course, adding a twist even harder.
I have to say the gymnasts in Antwerp love the floor. This new Janssen floor system is super springy, and everybody is enjoying it. Now, some of the really powerful gymnasts have had difficulty staying in bounds because it's so springy. But it's really great that they have the power and the technique to take advantage of a floor that is just like a 12 by 12 meter trampoline. Of course, she's so powerful, she could probably tumble that way on a hardwood floor.
One tumbling pass to go. Huge double pike. And like you mentioned, stayed in the bounds. We struggled with that on day one, but no problem in the final.
Now, her floor exercise often gets overlooked, but not there. As we're over to Kyla Ross now on the balance beam. She needs a 14.517 to supplant her teammate Simone Biles at the top of the standings.
Oh, huge opportunity here. She had a 14.566 in qualifying. So this is a score that she's certainly capable of.
perfect landing there in her tumbling element.
First on balance beam at the U.S. Championships this year.
One of those elements with the connection. She ended on this event at the National Championships, and that element right there, she circled and circled and circled, saved it.
This is aggressive, isn't it?
She looks confident.
You mentioned that at the top of the show. She seems to have some renewed confidence. I really see her really focused and aggressively going for these skills.
Quick connection there, solid. You know, having been at the Olympics, getting that experience, you have to think that that is an added element to her confidence.
Nice.
And little step there, big smile.
And her teammate reacts, Simone Biles, who she's chasing.
This is going to come down to likely a 1-2 finish by the Americans. They go to floor, where Simone Biles probably has an advantage because of her high level of difficulty. But Kyla Ross, under enormous pressure, really rocked the beam routine.
Well, she was elegant, beautiful, and solid on this event. She's, like I mentioned, one of the best athletes when it comes to execution. And while she doesn't have the difficulty on floor, I will tell you what, her floor routine is one of my favorites to watch. So we are in for a show from the Americans on the next event as well. Absolutely beautiful.
Well, if nothing else, Kyla is not going to make it easy on Simone. Applying the pressure in this third rotation on the balance beam. So now we wait for the score of the American as we come to the end of the third rotation in Antwerp. So we'll see the score on the other side of the break as those two Americans are battling for a gold medal. They'll decide it on the floor exercise when we bring you back live right after this on Universal Sports. American Kyla Ross is the leader with one rotation left to go at the World Championships. She will be up next on the floor exercise in this group. And Shang Chunsong first among those at the top of the standings as we get things going in rotation number 4 right now.
Well, that's a pretty good start. 1.5 through to triple full punch front. Good combination.
Another combination there, 2.5 punch front. Attempted a quad turn there, a little short on it.
Interesting, there's not a lot of fluidity between movements here. Like she sets up, does a trick, thinks about it.
Quite a little thing, but she actually had some decent combinations in the tumbling as well as a full in and finished strong there at the end.
When was the last time you saw a gymnast from China use the theme song from Bonanza with authentic gunshots?
That's right. Well, this was her open tumbling pass. Great combination, 1.5 through to that triple full, right to a punch front. I wasn't sure we were going to see any double flipping passes because she is very petite, not a lot of power, but pretty impressed with how little and young she is. Obviously, like you mentioned, needs some improvement in the choreography and the flair of her routine, or the fluidity.
Chinese national champion, and she was the national champion on floor as well.
All right, so her scores coming up. Meantime, in the background there, Ross and Biles, the two Americans, sitting 1-2 in the standings, and they will be the final two on the floor. Ross just ahead of Biles, who will be last. Talk about building it up for a huge finish. Last two on the floor, top two in the standings.
Well, this can be tough right here, having to wait. They've already warmed up. Now they have to sit and wait for all of these routines.
And talking with one another. What's the relationship between the two like? They're talking to each other, yet they're their biggest competitors now.
Well, Amanda, you can explain that best, but I mean, I'm sure that they both, in their hearts, really want to win, but there's a great deal of camaraderie among these young ladies on the national team because they live and train together quite often.
That's right. They spend at least once a month training together, and I can tell you that both of these athletes very much appreciate each other's strengths. They're completely two different athletes, and really they know they both have a shot at this, and they want the best athlete to win, even though they're hoping that's them.
13.966 for the Chinese athletes, as the Russian Alia Mustafina, a 20-year-old, takes to the floor.
Well, she has been right in the mix, and like I mentioned at the top of this competition, I had a feeling she was going to come out on a mission. However, she struggled in this event on day one, and like we always talk about, is that thought in the back of her mind. She looks fierce.
She fell on this mount. Arabian double front, nicely done.
Wow. Big combination, the two whips into it, and of course connecting out of it. Big bonus.
Beautiful. 2.5 to front full.
See a much different performance here than we saw from Shang.
This is where the ballet training and that foundation of exquisite technique really shows on the gymnast from Russia in particular.
Triple full there, a little bit of form. Saw that same position on her fault.
Ooh, didn't quite make it that turn all the way around. She's looking for full difficulty, but you have to complete all the twists.
So they downgrade that to the next level, which will be the 3.5 or the triple value.
Now take a look at this. She's going to pose here, do some choreography. She's not standing in the corner because the judges allow you only to stand in the corner with both feet together once during the routine. And so every gymnast is figuring out a way to finesse around that rule, and she does it very elegantly.
Well, again, really stressing the importance of artistry. You know, so many of the athletes are standing in the corner waiting, and then doing these big tumbling passes, which is amazing. However, judges want more artistry, and we saw that from her. She should be so proud of that routine, and we finally see a smile. We haven't seen.
Such a relief to see that she's pleased. She had a terrific meet today, considering all the challenges that are going on back home and the fact that she lost her coach, who recently left and went to Brazil. This was a great meet for Mustafina.
Well, this is where she struggled day one. No problem day two. Talk about some of those obstacles. And to not have a perfect day in the qualification round and then come out and have such a strong performance says a lot about her pursuit for excellence and her pursuit to be on the podium at this competition in the all-around.
And how many gymnasts come back from a torn ACL and still contend for major world and titles? It's really terrific to see her doing so well at 19 years of age.
And the two Americans, Biles and Ross, still waiting. Will be last to go.
I think a medal is assured for Mustafina. It's just a matter of whether it's going to be anything above bronze, and that really will depend on how the U.S. gymnasts do.
Now the Russian here was just off the podium after the first rotation, but has been steadily moving up with her scores. And now certainly a shot to at least get the bronze, and finishing with a flourish on the floor where she won the bronze medal last year in London at the Olympic Games.
Les points de Mustafina ont
The former world champion. And again, for some of the other countries outside of the U.S., the window for the Russians, Eastern European countries is a lot wider. They can come back from injury. They can stay in the sport longer. And now here she is contending for a medal in 2013.
Well, you can see the judges really discussing her routine. No doubt did she better her score from day one, where she had that mistake on the first pass and only scored a 13.166. So she'll definitely make those improvements. It almost looks like they're still trying to figure out her difficulty score, and then of course adding in that execution score. But it should be a strong score for her on that event.
She's the 2010 World All-Around Champion, and here she is 3 years later, contending once again.
And now we'll get her score, 14.566. And Larisa Iordache of Romania now next on the floor after the long wait for the Russian score. Coming off a disappointing results on the beam, but trying to finish strong.
Well, this is a great event for her. Big first tumbling pass. 2 flips, 2 twists. Excellent.
Example of some choreography into a turn and then right towards the tumbling pass to try to keep the fluidity between the dance and the tumbling skills that the judges are looking for.
Quite a few jumps and leaps throughout this routine, and I can tell you that is a big factor in the endurance of these last tumbling passes. Great landings throughout this entire routine. Stumbled on beam, but there is a smile because she is
great.
proud of that floor routine.
That was an exceptional routine. Nailed everything after coming back from the disappointment on beam. And there, of course, is Octavian Belu, the long-time legendary coach for the Romanian program. He retired and then came back to help rejuvenate the program, along with his coaching partner, Mariana Bitang.
Well, big opening tumbling pass right there. Really fighting for those landings. It's too bad she had that mistake on balance beam because she was right in the running, and that's going to be another big score for her.
Meantime, this is the Spaniard Roxana Popa, the 16-year-old, over on the vaults, one of her best disciplines.
Lots of power there on that Iordache double full. And a big hug. It's the greatest feeling as an athlete to walk off, get those big hugs from the coaches.
I always wondered if it was a great feeling or whether you were just enduring it because the coach was deciding to hug you on global television. But did you really enjoy it, or was it something, okay, I got to get my hug now?
Well, if you're coming off a good performance, you know, it doesn't beat that, you know.
Great meet for Roxana Popa.
Larisa Iordache waiting on her score from the floor. Yao Jinnan of China coming up next there. 14-7 for the Romanian Iordache.
2/10 better than her day one performance.
She's second behind Mustafina at this point.
Go over and have a little water cooler conversation. Talk about the score as we move back to the floor for the Chinese national individual all-around champion Yao Jinnan, the 18-year-old.
She was about a half a point behind Mustafina coming into floor, and of course Mustafina nailed the routine, so unlikely that she can score a half a point better than Mustafina on this event and move ahead of her as a medal contender. Beautiful triple twist in combination.
You can see not quite the same power we saw from Mustafina. Beautiful flexibility on that turn.
Gave us a thrill earlier today by going for that Gaelle order, that Mo salto on the uneven bars. She was the bronze medalist in the all-around at the 2011 Worlds. Had a shot at the gold, but fell off the balance beam.
We've seen a lot of attempts at those quad turns so far. Everybody's come up short.
I think everybody figures I'll go for a quad, and if I only get credit for 3, I'll take it. Isn't that kind of the philosophy there?
Very different music choices for both of the Chinese athletes. A little bit more elegant, lots of flexibility packed into those routines. Not the most powerful routine, but she was clean in all of her landings.
Les deux favorites se retrouvent au sol. Elles n'ont pas droit à l'erreur. Les médailles sont en jeu.
One of her combination passes, that 2.5 twist, directly connected, and here's the turn. You can see, tried to squeeze it around and just lost her balance. And
if your heel drops down, basically they stop counting at that point, don't they?
That's right. And of course, that little bit of stumble out will be a deduction. Clean and very simple double tuck there at the end.
We mentioned earlier that you get credit for 5 acrobatic skills in your difficulty score and 3 dance elements. So everybody's going for the most difficult dance elements they can attempt to get high value dance points.
Giulia Steingruber on the ball.
Difficult front vault with a 1.5 twist. Pretty high start value there, 6.2. Takes tremendous power, lots of speed on this run. She'll come into the table, little form deduction there, but she really cranks her rotation. Little off center and a hop back, but very impressive when it comes to the power of that vault.
And the 19-year-old very good at the vault, one of her best events. And her final one of the night in Antwerp here.
We'll get a chance to see her in the finals on that event as well.
And Yao Jinnan, her score from the floor, 13.866. So that just sets up for the final 2. And both of the Americans ready to go. Kyla Ross first. She is the leader with her final routine of the evening. She actually needs a 13.858 to take the lead. That 5.7 score would be to tie her teammate Simone Biles. So it's
actually Mustafina.
Mustafina, yes, right. Who's currently the leader. Biles will be last.
Well, she scored a 14.333 day 1.
So this is easily a score that she can attain if she's clean.
That's the artistry. She dances into the pass. She dances right out of the pass.
Looked like a little nerves in that turn.
Came out a little bit early there. You can see she was going for the stick. She knows at this point every 10th matters. Like you mentioned on that turn, I think she watered it down. She's staying simple and clean. That's kind of what she is known for. This is the last tumbling pass.
Beautiful.
Well, every time I watch her on that event, I just get sucked into her routine. I think she performs and makes it look so easy.
Interesting that she has a gold medalist from the Olympics, but she's never been in the World Championship. So she'll undoubtedly move into first place as she gives a hug to her teammate, Simone Biles, who has a chance to take over that spot if she hits her routine.
Again, 13.858 is the mark she's looking for to move past the Russian, Mustafina, who's currently in the lead.
Excuse me, but you know, we mentioned earlier you just can't teach power. There's something also about grace and elegance. You can't quite teach it, right? You either have it or you don't, and a coach can help enhance that, right? But she just has it, doesn't she?
Yes, and they have spent a lot of time on the details of her routine so that you can see it. You see that drama. The music choice is amazing. There were pauses that really just suck you in, and you forget this is a competition. It's almost like a performance.
All right, Vanessa Ferrari is our last competitor on the vault.
Looked like that landing almost shocked her. It came a little quicker than I think she was expecting. Nice speed coming into the table. 1.5 twist off, and you could see that almost jarred her, and it was almost a perfect landing, just a little slide back of that foot.
All right, there's her score, 14-4 on the vault. And now Kyla Ross waiting for her score on the floor. And she has the lead.
And the exact same score that she earned on day one.
So an American will win the gold medal and become world champion. It's just a matter of, will it be Kyla Ross, who's currently in the lead, or that woman, Simone Biles, the last one on the floor tonight. She needs a score of 14.35 in order to win the Worlds.
And in qualifying, she scored a 15.033, and she debuted a new move now known as the Biles. It'll be the move she does in her second tumbling run. Watch this, double-double effortlessly.
Big hop back there. We talked about how springy this floor is. Simone is that type of athlete that has so much power. She has got to stay in control and stay in the bounds.
She could end up in the third row. There's the move. Watch this double layout with a half at the end. That's called a Biles as of now.
Well, it is all about power that sets her apart on this event. And that smile.
I just think she lights up this whole building. How about this, folks? Last year, she was a junior gymnast. This is her first major international competition, and she's less than a half a minute away from a chance at a gold medal. Oh, beautiful.
Kyla Ross watching her in the background. Is that going to do it?
I think so.
I think so. That was a big routine. She had some hops on the landing, but remember, her difficulty on this event is so high, she could have probably fallen and still had a high score in this event. A very successful day for Team USA.
How about that? The U.S. will go 1-2 again in a post-Olympic World Championship. It happened in 2005. It happened in 2009. And when we see her score, I think it will confirm that the U.S. will go 1-2 again in the World Championships in the year immediately after the Olympic Games.
Well, she packed this routine with just about perfect tumbling. I mean, some of the highest passes we will see from any female gymnast. And she really drew the crowd in. You could hear them clapping for her. Look at that big smile. She had an absolute blast out there.
And you can just see it in her presence as she goes, you know, I got this.
She had a big smile on her face before she even started the last tumbling pass because she could do that full in her sleep.
Ross watching, wondering if it's going to be a gold or silver for her. And the U.S. national champion, Simone Biles, at 16 years of age.
You know, she's just 4 feet 8 inches tall. It's interesting, she comes from Spring, Texas, for a young lady who is so springy.
Hasn't even finished her junior year of high school. And now she's a world champion.
A lot to be proud of, both of these young ladies.
And Mustafina will earn the bronze. Congratulations to her, considering all the challenges that the Russian Federation has had since the Olympics. A huge success for Russia as well.
But the U.S. goes 1-2 once again at the World Championship. Now the Fierce Five just became the Sensational Six. 1 year removed from their accomplishments in London. Add another name to Kyla Ross and the rest, because Simone Biles has arrived on the senior circuit at the major international level. She wins the gold medal and is the world champion tonight in Antwerp, Belgium. Biles, Ross, and Mustafina are gold, silver, and bronze medalists tonight in the women's all-around final at the World Gymnastics Championships in Belgium. The U.S. sitting 1-2 throughout all 4 rotations. That's the way they finished, with Biles just ahead of Kyla Ross.
Well, Kyla Ross was flawless tonight. She started out with one of her best vaults I've ever seen. Beautiful form. Came back on bars. She has a big start value here, and this is where she made up some ground. Closed the gap on Biles. Talked about her execution. That is where it came into a factor. Beautiful form, fighting for the landings. But this event is where she took the lead. She looked confident. She was solid on every single skill she did. And it was just enough to pass Simone Biles as they headed into the last event. She was absolutely beautiful in this event. Elegant, beautiful form. Very clean throughout this routine. She just didn't have the level of difficulty, especially here on that last tumbling pass. But she should be so pleased with that performance. Not too many athletes can come back after an Olympic year and perform like that.
And not many athletes can come to one of their first big senior competitions and perform like this.
And the difference, interestingly enough, in the all-around victory was almost the exact difference in their degree of difficulty that they come into the competition with. You're right, Kyla Ross had a spectacular meet, and she did all that she could do, performing all of her difficulty at maximum ability and with clean execution.
But I was so impressed with Simone because we talked at the top of the show. I was not sure how she was going to handle this pressure. I've seen her collapse, I've seen her fall and stumble on this event, but she came out confident. Nailing this event really showed that she was in it to win it. Huge dismount there.
You're right. Within the last few months, we've seen her spectacular, and we've seen her completely melt down. We didn't know who to expect today, but once she arrived at the floor, you could see it on her face. She not only has the power and the difficulty, but the presentation.
And a great way to finish the meet on your best event.
She nailed it down right at the end, finishing just ahead of her teammates. Simone Biles, the 16-year-old, is the world champion tonight in Antwerp.
Trois finales garçons et deux finales filles le samedi.
And a huge crowd tonight in Antwerp, Belgium for the women's all-around final at the World Gymnastics Championship. And it really came down to the very end between the two Americans, Ross and Biles. They had been neck and neck throughout the evening, and Biles just edges out her American teammate for the gold medal.
Well, it was quite a show for these fans. Some phenomenal gymnastics and the battle for those top spots. Very fun to watch, but overall, we saw some great gymnastics.
May we have your attention for the gymnasts.
Well, we saw once again how the U.S. just keeps churning out new and sometimes better athletes all the time. Going back to the World Championships over the last decade, the way they've been able to win on the big stage, bring other athletes through the pipeline, and continue that line of success. It's truly remarkable in a sport that can be so difficult to maintain a level of excellence. And any time in any sport, when you have new athletes continuing to come through, it's very difficult because you never know what you're going to get.
I think there's three factors there, Steve, that contribute to that. One is the fact that there's about 2,000 gymnastics clubs in the United States that are profitable, and they're producing just thousands and thousands of quality gymnasts who eventually rise to the top and make the national team. I think another factor is that other countries have declined in all reality. Places like Russia, Romania, and former champions in Ukraine and Belarus. These programs used to be heavily funded by the state. Now their programs are underfunded, and so most of their top coaches are therefore leaving. So if you look around at the U.S. Gymnastics Championships, many of the top gymnasts, not all, but many of the top gymnasts in the United States are coached by coaches who immigrated from places like Russia, China, Romania. And they're creating champions in the United States where the business of gymnastics is just more substantial.
Honoring the top 10 here, working towards the podium.
Third place and bronze medal winner from Russia, Mustafina.
Our bronze medalist, Alia Mustafina, former world champion from a few years ago, occupies the bottom step of the podium tonight at Antwerp.
Excuse me, Steve, but I don't think she could have expected to have a better competition. She did a great job, considering all the turbulence in the program in Russia. She did a terrific job, and a bronze medal is appropriate for the effort that she put in here.
The only member of the Fierce Five for the U.S. to make the final, Kyla Ross, had a chance for the gold when it came down to the final exercise of the night on the floor. She'll take the silver.
Well, it's not easy to come off an Olympic year. She didn't even have a full training year. She went on the tour. She got to live some of the great experiences of winning an Olympic gold as a U.S. athlete, and still came out in this competition and gave a strong run for that gold. However, to take home an individual medal as an all-around athlete, even if it's silver, huge accomplishment for Kyla Ross.
Many of the programs, even the great team of Australia is not even here because many programs are back home recuperating, and maybe some of their junior athletes are not quite ready for a world championship experience.
Simone Biles to a gym on a daycare field trip. When she was there, she was imitating some of the other gymnasts, got a letter in the mail from one of the instructors asking her to come out and be a member of the gym, start to train, and this is the culmination of years of hard work, and it shows you what can happen if you go on the right daycare field trip, I guess.
Well, first time at a world championship. Wow. That's all I can say. Absolutely a phenomenal job and a world championship gold medal. Incredible.
I think it's worth repeating that in the last 10 years, including 3 Olympics and 7 world championships, 8 of 10 times, the U.S. has won the gold medal with 8 different gymnasts. And it's also worth repeating that in 2005, it was Chelsea Memel and Nastia Lukin who went 1-2 in the world, the post-Olympic year. 2009, it was Bridget Sloan and Rebecca Bross who went 1-2 in the world in the post-Olympic year. And here we are now, a year after Olympics in London, and Simone Biles and Kyla Ross go 1-2 again for the United States. Incredible depth in the U.S. program.
So there are the top 3, the medal winners tonight in the women's all-around. Alia Mustafina of Russia takes the bronze. Kyla Ross of the U.S. the silver, and her teammate Simone Biles, a 16-year-old born in Columbus, Ohio, now living and training in Spring, Texas, the gold medal.
Dames en heren, we staan recht. We all rise, ladies and gentlemen, for the national anthem of the United States.
What a night for Simone Biles. Talked about nerves earlier in the week and how she would handle those in such a big international competition. Her first year at the senior level. I think she acquitted herself better than anyone could have expected tonight.
Well, I know I personally was very impressed, but what I loved most was she brought her big gymnastics and she brought that smile and just absolutely had a blast out there, and that's very fun to watch.
And we're not done yet, folks, because she qualified for every individual event final, so she has a shot at 4 more gold medals.
And that's the first time since 1991 for an American athlete to qualify all around and all 4 events.
And Kyla Ross also qualified for 3 event finals, so these American women are not done with the medal haul here from Antwerp.
So an incredible evening for the Americans in Antwerp, Belgium at the 44th World Gymnastics Championships. Kyla Ross and Simone Biles occupying the top 2 spots through all 4 rotations. It was just a matter of who was in first, who was in second. It was clear as the evening wore on that they were battling for the gold medal. And in the end, they take the top 2 spots as they both had terrific performances in all 4 routines. Simone Biles clinched it on the floor, and she is the world champion for the first time at the age of 16. So that does it for the women's all-around. And now for Amanda Borden and Bart Connor, I'm Steve Schlanger. Thanks for joining us from Antwerp. A thrilling evening for the Americans, who go 1-2.